It's DisK.
And over here in the top right hand side of the map, we have the red Zerg player. It is Erik, who is representing Cranky Ducklings.
Yeah, you know, shout out. I'm sure we're seeing Light and all the Ducklings are watching in, tuning in. I think it's probably, what, 5 in the morning down in that Aussie land. So shout out to them for supporting these up-and-coming talents. You know, they had Vindicta on their team for a while. They have Dolan. They just do a really good job of making it a little bit more possible for players, again, like Erik, like Vindicta, like Dolan, to maybe commit a little bit more to this and get a little bit better.
Yeah, I honestly, the Cranky Ducklings as an organization and stuff have done a lot for StarCraft, not only through picking up some of these players and stuff, but also they just put on a lot of events, especially events that are not necessarily at just like the pro level, which I think is frankly a very underratedly awesome and important part of the whole StarCraft ecosystem. So big shout out to them. They've been really great to see having the scene.
You know, I again, anyone that goes and supports not just the Cyrils of the world, but the people that might be Cyril one day, who knows, maybe in a different version of StarCraft, but you give them that baseline, you allow them to go and develop, and it really is pretty great. So for now, Erik, he didn't go for the Erik opener. We actually didn't see him do that yesterday as well, as you know, just because he developed the build, we've really just been seeing people walk away from that anyway. So standard opener coming out of Erik. He does get his natural down on location. And what do you think? So DisK is a player that I think of as a Twilight guy, but the way you play PvZ, and in fact there's no warp gate, oh, it's 216. I think of him as a guy that's a Twilight guy, but you play PvZ with the Stargate, so that's where he's gonna go.
There is a roach horn coming down at 2 minutes and 20 seconds. So the real question to me, like I think DisK can play whatever kind of is like the meta thing. I feel like DisK usually is just playing whatever the meta is. So I'm not surprised to see him mixing it in, like say a Stargate and stuff. My question is, has DisK made the move over to what I've seen a lot of pro players doing lately, which is just going for the Void Ray? Or is he going to go straight into the Oracle, which I think is like the more traditional way of doing the Stargate? And seeing the queens this far out, I feel like if I was a Protoss player, I saw those queens over there, I'd immediately be making a Void Ray.
Yeah, I mean, Void Ray with stuff on the ground does beat 2 queens, kinda. He's making an Oracle. Oh, this doesn't feel good. Roaches are gonna get made. 5 of them on the way, 12 lings. Now, the one thing here is we see the Stalker micro. Great job of microing away. There's no speed, so even if you build lings to reinforce, they're not going to reinforce across the map very quickly. And this Adept, I was going to take and get the main base, but you know, it's just going to stay alive for now, move out. The first Oracle is just about done. Do you build a Void Ray behind that? That's the question. This has been scouted. There's a ton of gateways are on the way, shield batteries on the way. This is extremely committed from Erik.
Another Oracle coming on out. This is a really interesting decision. Now, if the Oracles are just going after the queen straight up, there's only 2 queens over here. You can still try and get something done. Warp gate gonna get canceled. It really hurts. He's not healing it with the shield batteries. I'm actually really surprised. I thought he was gonna heal it.
I gotta target that down. This pylon is very low as well, but there aren't enough Ravagers to knock it down, not to burst it. So this pylon is soaking so much damage. 1 queen remains. Again, the Oracle, it knocks one of them down, but now it's mostly out of energy. And how many? We don't have any pylons on the way. All this stuff that's here, all the shield batteries don't matter because, again, there is nothing to power it. Not for quite a while. So the Oracles are going to sit on top, knock the Ravagers down. There are no queens, so that is a bit of a win. But this is still 10 dead workers, tons of static defense that have done nothing. Massive investment there. And behind this, Erik, he's droning behind this, right? Adding in more queens, adding in more drones. These lings will never fight through that number of shield batteries, but you could run into the main base, see if you can get a little bit more. Although you do have to be very careful here, Ravi, as we take a look at what's happening. There are 2 Oracles on the map. 3rd one on the way. They can run across the map. And with the lack of queens, with the lack of everything else.
Oh, no! He didn't hold position the probe. Oh, my God. If he had held position the probe, the lings actually would not have gotten through with the shield batteries healing.
I'm sitting here talking about how you got to be careful about Oracles diving across and just killing all your drones. But if there are lings continuously in the base, spending all the energy getting damage done, they can't run across the map and kill all your drones. No, can they?
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely right. That is going to be the follow-up concern here from Erik. And it's kind of weird because you look at the supplies and DisK is actually at a decent supply. At the end of the day, he didn't lose as many workers as Erik sacrificed just to be able to put on this kind of aggression. DisK, it looked so scary. And I think the biggest scary thing normally would be just if you invested in 5 shield batteries, you really just don't have any kind of counter potential. He doesn't have warp gate. He doesn't have the ability to put on gateway pressure. But like you said, it is just the oracles. Can the oracles get damage done? And when I look at this, a single spore crawler defending against 3 oracles, I don't even think the queens are actually enough. Yeah, killing off 6-7 workers, I would happily trade 1 oracle for that.
Yeah, given the game state here, absolutely. Erik's economy is it fair to say shattered? I think that's probably not strong enough of a word. It's bad. And losing these queens as well early on just kind of slow you down a little bit. So Erik, he does have a lair halfway done. We're going to see a follow-up. I don't know what it is just yet for now, finally. It's 6.5 minutes in this game, Ravi, and finally there's going to be speed on the way, so the Lynx can actually do something. But again, oracles continue to dive in. My crew's not the best. Could have got a little bit more there.
Derping.
Why?
Yeah, they were making some wide turns on some of those oracles, which is a little trick that you have to just get used to with the oracles and microing. But the adepts are going to be able to come in, finish off a couple of these drones, picking off a few more. Again, like even if you find 6 or 7 workers over here, just the lost mining time plus the 6 or 7 workers is going to be very, very worthwhile. Already finding 6, and I mean the adepts are still alive and denying more mining time. This is phenomenal damage here for DisK.
It's funny, I'm watching you like 6 workers, 7 workers, 8 workers, you know, it keeps updating as you say it. And that clip of Roddy last season where Dem is like, it's 10,000 resources less, it's 11, it's 12, and Roddy losing his mind. That's kind of what's happening right now. But adepts, again, I like the addition of these random adepts, right? They're just making it so hard for Erik. And in this game where, I mean, Zerg would love to have an economy. The Zerg would love to have an army. Doesn't really exist, although this is pretty cool. Erik taking a page out of Mio Micah's book. That's a very, I can't say it's a very quick Hydra Den because we are almost 8 minutes into this game. But given the game state, given how functionally the game is like 4 minutes in or so, just how much everything has been slowed down, and getting that Hydra Den is pretty cool. I love DisK doing this as well. It's like, yeah, you know, my oracles, there's nothing here for me to kill at the 3rd base, but I do spell damage. I can punch through the larva armor, and I can deny some of these army units, maybe some of the drones that might get made, and I'm just going to keep slowing you down. Larva's a problem right now. The queens are not where they need to be in terms of injects.
I actually think those 3 oracles could have just killed the queen.
Yeah,
and then I think after that, then you just deny money at the base even longer.
It's technical. But it's cool. I like it.
Yeah. I mean, he's still in such a good spot. He's going to continue to dive back in over here because there's only 4 queens out on the map right now. One of the queens is able to chase the oracles away a little bit at the natural alongside the spore crawler, but all it can do is chase them away. It's not really preventing the drone kills right now. A Phoenix was made, which is, I guess, is just a nice like overlord cleanup general thing. Interesting decision, but I don't hate it.
Yeah, so I guess I'm a little worried about this timing coming out from Erik. His supply is horrible. Like, let's be clear, his economy's shot. This is his last shot at this game. But we don't have charge. Blink is on the way. There are a lot of Hydras getting made. Yeah, double Robo Colossus Disruptor would be cool if he gets there. But this timing that's going to be coming out pretty quickly out of Erik, you might get the double Robo Disruptor out in time. I'm not sure. But with all these Hydras here, there's no splash. Stalkers with Blink are okay. But this is still something that, just given at where DisK has decided to take this game, this is still something that he has to take extremely seriously.
Yeah, I think he's going to be very reliant on force fields. As long as those force fields are on point, I think that he should, even without the disruptors, be able to hold off against this. But I do agree that like there is a possibility of Erik taking a fight that he could win. If there was like poor micro on DisK side or something, I think that Erik absolutely could win a fight.
Yeah, I think that's always possible. Man, there are so many. This is 5 centuries, almost full on energy. So getting up the ramp is really hard. He's opening at multiple angles, but as long as the oracles are there, just constantly revelating, how can you find your angle? So I think you got to knock the rocks down here, come around a different angle. These adepts have been so annoying. And they're going to get a couple more drones. They're going to get even more. If they could get even more if the queen gets targeted, but they're not really going to do so. But still 3 more drones go down. And I feel like the timing's gone. You know, I thought Erik, if he was able to hit pretty quickly with Roaches and Hydras, and it's like, maybe you can make something happen. But 2 Colossus are on the map right now. Charge finally getting started, +2. A blink is done. Erik's going to get his 4th base DisK is going to get his 4th base pretty quickly, and he's massively up in supplies. So that slim timing we were looking at, Ravi, it's gone. Erik, that was kind of his last shot in this game unless something crazy happens. But hey, I'd like to remind you, the Vanya game, the Wayne game, we had something similar happen. Not happening here, though.
No, it's looking a lot grimmer right here for Erik, and it's going to try and damage one of the Colossus, but it's not going to be enough. Colossus survives, DisK survives, and DisK goes up 1-0 against Erik's shenaniganry that does not actually pan out. Almost, it got very close, it looked like, to somehow breaking through, doing lots of damage, panning out. But just, yeah, I think the identification, or like DisK even getting that adept across the map to see the roaches, being able to full wall in over there to start up 6 or something shield batteries, even though the shield batteries didn't look like they were helping, in a weird way, like, it still also forced the focus fire down to the pylons. It caused a lot of havoc. It did buy a lot of time. The oracles were able to like get a lot, it allowed DisK also to like say, I'm going to save my oracle energy, instead of, imagine if he was across the map with the oracles at the beginning of that fight where the big all-in was happening, and his first oracle or 2 oracles were across the map killing like 3 or 4 drones, as literally just everything in the front line dies and he doesn't have any oracle energy to save things. Like, I think there are still some critical moments there that if DisK didn't get like the proper scouting or something, things maybe could have turned out differently. But really, really well done there by DisK.
Yeah, well played. And again, this is something where you said, maybe Erik, maybe DisK. I had 80-20 DisK. I think he is that good. I think historically he has been that good, but who knows? I think that build could work. I think you're right. And I think it was a really good build choice for the map. Because Ghost River is very close natural to natural. That is not a build that you're going to get any sort of results with on, say post-youth, right? Which is so long. But you play the builds to the map, you set tempo, and now, even though it didn't work for Erik, maybe this is a little bit too much cranky ducklings cope, but that's something that now DisK has to kind of keep in the back of his mind. He's like, okay, he's willing to go for these 2 base roach timings. We don't see that a lot. I got to keep that in mind. Maybe I play a little safer. I don't know. What I do know is game 2 is ready to go. And the ever left in the red. He's down a game in this series for the cranky duckling. It's Erik.
And down over here in the bottom right-hand side of the map, we have the blue Protoss player from Apprentice Esports. He is DisK. I will say, for what it is worth, if you pit a Ligulac prediction against DisK and Erik, it comes out 48-51, or 48-52, I should say.
Really?
Yeah. It's actually 2% favored for Erik.
And if you go and you look at the Twitch chat prediction points, it's 800, what is that? 818 to 18, 812 to 889,000 esports dollars. So that's also right around that like 51-49-ish. I'm not going to do the last percentage point, but that's also like on that 50-50-ish range. So maybe I'm just wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you in the sense that I actually do still give favoritism a little bit to DisK in this. Especially after that first game, I think he looked pretty strong, but I really do think that like if Erik won this, I wouldn't be calling it a massive upset. I would say, man, Erik is like really on the up and up, and DisK is struggling a little bit right now.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I'm really excited to see what Erik has in store for us in the second game. He is an aggressive Zerg. He has been doing that across the region. We saw him do it yesterday. So game 1, I mean, the roaches didn't, the 20, what was it, like a 2032 drone, 29 drone, something like that type of roach timing didn't really work out. It was scouted, even though it was, of course, even though it was a really short rush. Slowlings are really slow to reinforce. A little rough. Well, what is it? Site Delta's another map. It's a bit more standard of a map, probably, is the way we talk about it. What does Erik have in store for us now? As we, again, it didn't work, but it might put DisK just a little bit on notice.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing about aggressive Zerg players, I feel like. When there's an aggressive Zerg player, I really do feel as though there are many different points in time which they can be aggressive. And you have to react to all of them pretty differently. So there is the 2-base aggression where, yeah, they're dropping a Roach Horn at like 2 minutes and 15 seconds or 2 minutes and 10 seconds or something. And they're doing that kind of big all-in off of slow lings and all that stuff. There's also just the, you know, I'm not going to drone up my 3rd base very heavily, and I'm going to actually cancel or kill your 3rd base. There's also the, I'm going for a Hydra Ling all in. There's like the Meal Micah kind of stuff. There's all sorts of different ways you could be an aggressive Zerg player at very different points in time that require very different reactions. So I think Erik is actually pretty diverse in the ways that he puts on pressure.
Yep, I'll buy what you're saying. If you're dragging all kinds of different ways you can get aggressive, all different versions and looks you can give. I want to add one thing though, is that none of them are very good. Like, I hear what you're saying, but like all-in Zerg play is just not good in the current meta. Yeah, we're not at the top level, obviously. This is not say role playing max packs or something. But you do have to. There's a bit of a conceit here. Terrans have all-ins. Protoss players have all-ins, and in general, they're not as good as they used to be. But for the most part, Zerg all-ins are not nearly as strong as they have been in the past, and you are kind of giving up some of that more where Zerg is a race is powerful to go for these aggressive timings over and over and over again. Because again, they're not as strong as just playing macro Zerg.
Bale, I'm gonna let you read Twitch chat, and they can be a response for whatever you're saying on that. I'm not gonna get involved in that arguments.
I mean, there's a reason that Bly isn't winning regionals anymore, is all I'm gonna say.
That is the only reason.
Pretty much. Glad you
5
understand.
workers killed by 2 adapts is some sick damage alongside 6 Zerglings that were also picked off there. So DisK finding a very, very strong start there. I mean, already sitting up a couple of workers as he's, of course, doing his regular securing of the 3rd base. Does he actually have any depths over here to defend this? Not enough, and he's gonna have to pull those oracles back, but it's gonna be cutting a little bit close in terms of how many hit points the Nexus is gonna lose.
Ooh, nice round on the adepts as well. And that's one of the downsides of committing your adepts, that yes, you got 5 workers, that was great, but now there's a lot of pressure on your Nexus. You gotta warp in more adepts. The oracles have to run home. And look at this.
Spire.
Yeah, Evo Chamber Spire +1 melee. Erik, he did this yesterday, and I think, no, he lost. It didn't work out with his Freya. But he did this on this map in game 2. He was on the south side instead of the north side. But this entire build, he's getting Failing Nest too. That's a little interesting. But getting +1 melee, getting the mutas like this is just designed to force base trades, to get the Protoss player just as frustrated as possible, dominate the map, and then when they move out, you sweep in and kill all their bases. It's kind of an all-in macro play, right? Because you're never, if you're going for this style, you're never going to be able to fight. Never is a strong word. It's really hard to fight the Protoss army straight up, but you never try.
Yeah. Erik had gotten a little bit supply block there as the Overlord did get started a little bit late. He loses a handful of drones, so kind of ends up being okay, and the Overlord is going to be finishing up right in time for that Spire. So I guess it ends up being okay, although I don't know if one Overlord is going to account for how many mutas I imagine he wants to make.
Yeah, he's got 7 supply free. Less than that. 7 supply of 3. He's going to make 10 mutas. That's 20 supply needed.
Unfortunate. 3 mutas. Okay. I mean, they'll help deal with the oracles for a little bit, I guess, but there's definitely not the supply he wanted right now.
He's kind of playing this like it's a Ling. Oh, Lings get on top of that. Bad warping, and now Bailey's into the 3rd base. Oh, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt. Actually, not as bad as I thought it was gonna hurt. The probes still have to run away. Now it hurts as bad as I thought it was gonna hurt. And Lings in the main base continue to constitute a problem. 15 dead workers. And he's kind of playing this like a Ling Bane Muta all in. You know, Blink's gonna be done soon, but the Ling's at the natural, Baneling's into the 3rd base as the mutas start to spawn. And you know what, Ravi? We were talking about supply blocks. Trading all your army for workers is a way to get out of a supply block.
That is, in fact, a way to trade out of a supply block. It's not the ideal way, but it does technically work. Man, I'm actually a little bit sad for Erik in terms of what he was trying to set up to do. Because imagine if he hadn't been supply blocked and the 10 mutas are already out and we're already on the other side of the map, continuing to harass. I actually think it would have been difficult for DisK to move out. As it stands, maybe it still ends up working out just because the stalkers are actually chasing around these mutas in the middle of the map. But yeah, I think that if these mutas were already inside the main base, could have caught DisK in a very awkward spot.
And now, oh, there's a Colossus popping out just in time. So the Lings are just, they run in, they're not going to get much done. But hey, again, Ling Stalkers against a bunch of Mutas are not very good. They can kind of handle it for the time being, but what you need is a cannon, a shield battery in every mineral line. You need, if you're going to commit like this, because again, Erik is committing to this. This is not, I'm going to build 10 Mutas and we're going into something else. This is, I'm going to build as many Mutas as humanly possible. And I'm going to try to win the game like that. Double Stargate, Fleet Beacon, +1 maybe, get Annie and Pulse Crystals. You have to hard counter it to the same level that Erik is committing to it. And that's how Estrella almost lost a game 2 against Erik. Estrella thought this was going to be some sort of transition into ground behind it, because that's how a lot of Zerg players go. And then 20 Mutas swoop in, and it's like, okay, this is a little awkward now. How do I handle this?
Yeah, first Phoenix now out. It's it's kind of an awkward spot now. Ooh, Oracle's getting a little bit close to those Mutas. Could have gotten a bit dangerous there. Stalker's finding these Mutas though, and the Mutas trying to take the trade over there. That is one of the fights of all time. The slow bailing run in again. Oh my god, not again. The slow bailing run in. Finding 11 workers. That was a lot of bailings for the trade. But I'm actually getting worried about how softened up that Nexus is getting also. I
know, I was gonna say, it's like one more run by like that, which is 10, you know, those like 10, 12 banelings or something.
If he runs by before the shields recover, I actually think he might just kill the base.
You know, there's one benefit, right, of having, he's chronoing, of course, because he wants more pros back, but chronoing actually gets you your shields back faster too. So, you know, you get 2 for the price of 1 here. Third base should be okay. And Erik, okay, so Erik's getting a lot of damage. It's been 42 dead probes. He's got an Oracle, got a couple army units. But again, we're starting to hit, +2's going to be done soon. Templar Archives on the way eventually. And again, Erik's kind of he's only on 64 workers. Fourth base only just now getting started. You're kind of in this situation where the army you're building has a time limit on it. And I love, how do you feel about DisK built a single Phoenix and went back into ground?
Yeah, so you were saying that there's a time limit on this. Let me tell you this grand story that I like to call every single Protoss player's ladder game. That one ladder game they have where you think, I have 25 or 30 stalkers. My opponent's just making Mutas and Lings. And I'm just taking a fight versus the Mutas right now. This is going to be fine. And then you realize that 30 Mutas just run circles around all of your stalkers. And by the time you finally take the fight against the stalkers, or against the Mutas in a head-on fight, the Muta count has gone so big and your economy has fallen so far to the wayside that you are now no longer fighting 20 Mutas, you're fighting 45 Mutas, and you still only have 20 stalkers. This is actually like the Protoss nightmare.
Oh, this is what I'm saying. You get double Stargate, you get a Fleet Beacon, you need to hard counter it, not just kind of soft counter it with Phoenix or with the stalkers. And by the way, around weapons level 2, +2 is 5.9 seconds from completion. And it's still not getting repowered. DisK and all the chaos and the madness has not paid attention to it properly. So having +2 would be a nice thing, especially with the Archons trying to get on top of the Mutas. And it's just, now it's on the way. Now things are getting repowered. But man, that's so much of an opportunity cost. It's only 2 Phoenix on the map. And again, without +1, without any Pulse Crystals, they just don't fight well. Archons are dead. DisK is dead. You gotta get a second Stargate if Erik's gonna do that. And now we move into game 3.
Dude, those slow bailing run-bys, killing all of those probes, the Ling run-by that managed to squeeze its way through the like almost wall in that DisK had, and then like that Muta transition, all 3 of those things really, I think, managed to do quite a bit of damage to DisK that he was almost prepared for, but not quite. But it's even scary to think about how that could have been an even more, like an even stronger Muta tech switch timing from Erik if the supply block hadn't happened. If the Mutas could have even hit even earlier in larger numbers, it could have actually looked even worse. So really nice kind of mix-up build there from Erik. I was a little bit concerned about him at some points in that game, but he truly made that Muta tech switch work.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. I look at this, it's like, why did DisK not go and we gotta let him go, we're ready to go. Why did DisK not take that more seriously?
I think that, so from the Protoss perspective, there is this kind of tough choice you sometimes have to make where sometimes you think, if I take this too seriously, like for example, if I throw down a second Stargate and start pumping out Phoenix and I add on a fleet beacon and start looking about anion pulse crystals, and my opponent made 10 mutas, I've now heavily overinvested into the Phoenix, and it can potentially become a problem, especially when there's the rest of your opponent's army is just Zerglings on the ground that you now are trying to like lift up each individual Zergling to stop them from killing your third base. And even if you only invest in like some of that, sometimes you can still feel like, oh, I'm over investing into it a little bit. So that is like the thought process that goes in your head. By the time you even see how many mutas your opponent has actually invested into, sometimes you feel like you've already taken so much damage that you can't afford the fleet beacon, which costs 300 extra minerals, 200 extra gas, and all the extra Phoenix to get made. And you used to think, I should just double down on Blink Stalkers, but
I mean, I guess
it's a catch-22. I'm not saying that I disagree with what you're saying, but it is, I think, a very common thing that happens to Protoss players that get caught kind of with their pants down against mutas.
Well, hopefully not getting caught with his pants down. And actually, I think the first time on this map today in the upper right, East for Apprentice Esports, it's DisK.
And down here on the bottom left-hand side of the map, the red Zerg player from Cranky Ducklings. He is Erik. Now tied up 1-1. And got that good old hatchery coming down at a nice, very early timing before the Overlord finished.
Yeah, that was that a 15 hatch, 14 hatch?
I missed the timing, but I just saw that the hatchery was like 30% done as the Overlord was still finishing.
So, you know, it's funny when you talk about early hatches. This could just be because he wants to avoid the probe scout, but if you're going down to 14 hatch, that is not. I mean, that's extremely. You're kind of messing yourself up a little bit by doing that. But what it does do, I mean, we see it in ZVZ quite a bit. If you go for these early hatches, you can get more lings a little bit faster, pools faster, and you can try to make some flood happen. I don't think it's going to happen this game. But we have proven that Erik is an aggressive Zerg player, and he does like to try to be on the map a little bit more. Again, it's not going to happen this game. How do you feel about Dynasty, Ravi? I think this is the first time we've seen it. Actually, this is the first time we've seen this in the last 2 days, yesterday and today. And a little bit of inside baseball. Just to be clear, when Erik played yesterday, no, maybe that was Eggs. When Eggs played yesterday, we were like, hey, can we get Dynasty, kind of Eggs Maples here? It's the one map we haven't gotten. We were told by the South American Zerg that's like, no, I don't want Dynasty. It's too scary. So it is interesting to see Erik going for something a little bit different, as he's going ferocious here on a map, a pretty big map.
Yeah, I mean, this honestly, when it comes to like map size and stuff, I really do feel like so many players, they always talk about like, it's good because people think it's going to be bad, and that's what makes it good, is that it's even less expected. Like, players say that so often that I'm not even surprised about the map size making it a reason to do it. But it is going to be interesting to see how this pans out, because this did such a good job of scouting it out in the last game. But this game, the Adept is staying at home. This game, the Adept is chasing around 2 links. If this other link can survive long enough, oh, it does end up getting picked off before the Adept Shade finishes. And even then, I think the whatchamacallit, the Stalker was actually coming on out. Okay, DisK, this time you see 2 queens in the middle of the map. Please tell me that you just like start. Okay, yes, this game he immediately starts throwing down shield batteries and walls off. He doesn't wait until he sees the literal roaches.
I mean, you know, look, someone told these queens that their boots were made for walking, and they're just walking out the door. They may find themselves in another base, and you know, maybe DisK's home is not as friendly as their own, but their boots were made for walking here, Ravi, and they're gonna walk as far as they can. But yeah, they're just a little bit far ahead. It's a decent scout. It's a late scout though. So first shield battery's done. There's only one
pylon. No, okay.
Second pylon.
Yeah. All right. So shield battery overcharge is available, and another thing that DisK, in the game where he had this happen to him, and he still won, but it looked kind of closer, is that he didn't actually heal up his cybernetic score. Okay. That's a little bit unfortunate. He lets the lings in through, so the shield battery that was being overcharged is going to get attacked, but he's healing up that shield battery, and the probes almost managed to keep it alive, but it got so much value through it that it may end up still being okay. The probes could mineral walk through if they really want to just add in DPS right now. I guess they're just trying to act as a wall in, but I actually think that DisK is totally fine here now.
This game is over.
Yeah.
Not only is he just fine, that got nothing done. And okay, here's my headcanon here, if you're dragging about how this is happening. He let it get weird in game 1 because he wanted Erik to do it when everything was on the line. And he therefore was going to be able to go and say, yep, I'm going to smash this. you thought in game one. No, that was a gift. That was
if he had the foresight to do that, he truly would be an oracle. He wouldn't just be making oracles. He would actually be an oracle. But this is truly just one of the roughest spots I can imagine Erik to be in. And Oracle's going to come in, kill off, let's see, 3 drones, which if he even gets any more, I don't think he's going to, just because Oracles are low on hit points. But 3 drones, that's like 10% of the economy of Erik.
Yeah, Erik's going to take the gold too, and because of all this that happened, any sort of pressure on that gold base from like a Ravager or something is not going to show up in time to really deny it. So he's going to get the gold base as well. I meant what I said when that timing got nothing done. It's like, no, the game's over. This game may play out for another 5 minutes because you do slow yourself down a little bit as the Protoss player in terms of your tech and where you go, because you need shield batteries, right? You need pylons and all these things. But Erik's economy is so far behind. He's on 2 hatch. He's getting a 3rd one down a little bit more forward for the creep spread, because it's really hard to hold on to that gold mineral wall with the adept possibly existing. Like, you go Mutas, I guess you gotta, because any sort of ground-based composition is just not gonna get across the map fast enough to do anything and get any damage done. 3 more drones go down. I just don't see a safety release valve for Erik in this game 3.
No, I'm actually totally with you on that. I will not call any games over too early, just because I know what can go wrong through experience. But I am 100% in agreement. It would require DisK to make some very large mistakes or missteps, either it being just not actually killing Erik for way too long. I think that is honestly the most common thing that I could see, or like the most likely way that I could see Erik somehow mounting a comeback in this game, is that DisK does what DisK does almost a little bit too well, which is macro play safe. Misses the window where he could have just killed Erik because he was maybe being a little bit too greedy, and Erik finds some magical way to kind of gun his opponent down into like an awkward position and actually like kill a ton of workers with a slow baneling run by, as we saw in the previous game. Things along that nature. Well, but I think it is very unlikely to happen.
You know, there is one thing we talk about this. Yeah, we were right about going Mutos, but he's gonna drop that down once again, because again, you go Roaches, you go Hydras, you're just gonna die. So I like that Erik is giving himself different from the normal the standard win condition. You know, Roach Ravager, like, I'm gonna run on top of the army, I'm gonna kill it. Great. We're gonna run it straight up the gullet. You go Mutas like this, you're playing on the edges, you're nipping, you're knocking economy down, you're catching off stalkers who were there, and while it's not easy to make a comeback, and certainly if this was scouted, I think DisK just runs across the map with +1 stalkers and ends the game. But at least Erik is giving himself some of those differential win conditions. But, you know, I guess if you're tracking at the end of the day, I'm with you. This is a game on North America, and that does mean that you have, who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, it does seem like DisK is not going to be taking any chances. He knows how big of a lead he has, and he's not going to be waiting around for too long. He has the Warp Prism already out. He has more stalkers than there are lings, or at least did for a moment before another handful of lings pop. But I mean, when we're at the point where there were more stalkers than there were lings, that's already a bad spot. Even just half as many stalkers as there are lings is already a bad spot for the Zerg player.
Your Dragon, don't worry. There are 7 Mutas on the way. They're gonna save this game.
If Zerg players could lift and somehow you kill every single one, pro, but not gonna happen.